Can't wait to see it. And that'll do it for us here on Morning Rush on this Memorial Day. I'm Lindsay Tuckman. Let's head to Scripps News Live now with Veronica De La Cruz.
You and me both, Lindsay. Yes. I want to see that as well. It looks great. Looks
good job.
All right, we are, of course, following new developments in the race to raise the debt ceiling right now. President Biden and Speaker McCarthy reaching a deal, but are lawmakers in both parties on board? We're going to take a closer look for you. And it is Memorial Day. And as the nation pauses to remember those who've lost their lives in the line of duty, we're going to take a closer look at what it means to serve.
I wanted to be a paratrooper. I wanted to, win the Congressional Medal of Honor. I wanted to be praised and glorified. And that went away real soon after I got to Vietnam.
We're going to show you how Disney took 4 little girls under the sea to leave them feeling on top of this world.
Black Ariel. I never watched Black Ariel. I only watched the other Ariel.
They're so cute. Why the influence of this weekend's top-grossing movie is being felt well beyond the box office. Scripps News Live begins right now. After months of political grandstanding, weeks of bitter back and forth, and just days before a default, the nation's top leaders say that they have reached an agreement on raising the debt ceiling. But the deal is far from done. Hello, I'm Veronica De La Cruz. Welcome to Scripps News Live. Concessions that the White House has made to get this deal done include cuts to IRS funding and $30 billion less in COVID relief. In exchange, Republicans are agreeing to fewer cuts and that they had asked for and are going to extend the $31 trillion debt ceiling for the next 2 years. Last night, the 99-page legislation was posted online for lawmakers to take a look at. President Biden and House Speaker McCarthy began the hard work of selling this deal to members of their party.
I think he negotiated with me in good faith. He kept his word. He said what he would do. He did what he said he'd do. And I have no idea whether he had the votes. I expect he does.
But it wasn't until the final 2 weeks that would we really be able to sit down and communicate with one another. At the end of the day, people can look together to be able to pass this in the House and the Senate together to sign it and send it to the president.
Let's get you right out to national political correspondent Kevin Cirilli, who's live on Capitol Hill right now. So, Kevin, it feels like time has been running out now for weeks, but there's still a long road ahead. I mean, there's a vote that still needs to happen. What more can you tell us about the process?
Well, they're going to have this likely as a vote in the House of Representatives on Wednesday, Veronica, and tomorrow it's going to be before the Rules Committee. And this is really going to be the first test to see whether or not the votes are there. There will need to be 218 votes in the House of Representatives in order for this to clear to the Senate. But specifically in the House, we've been focusing on Republicans, and in particular whether House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will garner enough votes to move the compromise package to the Senate. But now all attention is facing to the progressive flank and the Democrats. And this comes as Congresswoman as left-wing progressives are saying that this deal moves too far to the middle for their liking. And that means President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy have to sell this to their respective flanks. Take a listen to what they said over the weekend. Here they are.
Takes the threat of catastrophic default off the table, protects our hard-earned and historic economic recovery, and the agreement also represents a compromise, which means no one got everything they want. But that's the responsibility of governing.
I think people will look back and say, oh, I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but there's something in here that it shouldn't be about you, it should be about America. America believes that we've spent too much, so this spends less.
Now, this deal would raise the debt ceiling from $31.4 trillion for 2 years, making this no longer a presidential politics issue and punting it all the way until January of 2025. But for Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, for example, a staunch progressive, this deal is by no means something that she wants to come out and say that she's ready to support. So only a handful of votes is what Democrats and Republicans could afford to lose in order order to get this to President Biden's desk. But as you and I have been reporting now for quite some time, they have a couple of days after the original June 1st estimate of the so-called X date. And now, in fact, they're saying that they have until June 5th potentially. So they've got a little bit of wiggle room and some positive signs that President Biden and Speaker McCarthy have been able to reach some type of a consensus. But by no means is this deal over the finish line and on the president's desk.
You're right about that, Kevin. And obviously, I take a look at the markets, but they are closed today. So obviously, there's no market reaction right now. But what about the country's credit rating? All of this drama, this debt ceiling drama that we've been kind of experiencing, has this had an effect on the country's credit rating?
Well, it could. And in fact, just like Americans get a credit rating score if they don't pay their credit card bills on time, this could impact the United States credit rating. And there are three major credit rating agencies that folks and economists look at in order to judge the U.S. credit rating. It's Moody's, in which the U.S. has a AAA. It's Fitch, in which the U.S. has a AAA rating, the best you can get. And then also S&P. Now remember, back in 2011, the U.S. was downgraded from AAA by the S&P to a AA or an AA plus rating. Now, as a result of that, Fitch came out just last week and said that the U.S. is at risk of getting downgraded. So the White House is pushing that Fitch warning call, Veronica, to suggest that if this thing goes down to the wire, or if there is a technical default, that the U.S. could actually get downgraded by another agency. Now, there's an agency in China that most folks don't really look at as impartial and non-biased that has actually downgraded the U.S. as a result of this. But again, of the three major agencies, one downgraded the U.S. back in 2011 as a result of that brinkmanship. And now we're at risk of having another agency do that, again, unless the U.S. puts that deal on President Biden's desk, unless Congress moves to pass that deal on President Biden's desk. And that's why the White House, Speaker McCarthy, Hakeem Jeffries, other leadership in Congress are potentially looking at that potential credit rating score as a last sign of urgency that could come on those holdouts who are undecided, Veronica, as to whether or not to get on board with this compromise.
Well, we are all watching this situation closely. Kevin's really live for us on Capitol Hill. Kevin, thank you. So now that there is a deal, lawmakers have just days to pass it, like Kevin was just saying. And in a town that moves slowly, even when lawmakers are in agreement, it can actually prove to be quite a challenge. Not everyone is on board with a plan. Republican Congressman Ralph Norman of South Carolina called the deal, quote, insanity, said that he wouldn't vote to bankrupt the country. And then on the other side of the aisle, like Kevin was just telling us, Democratic Congressman Pramila Jayapal of Washington, she's been calling this a terrible policy. She's been warning the president that he should be worried about earning the support of the House Progressive Caucus. So the battle is still far from over, and the next fight could be on the House and Senate floors. The acting Assistant Secretary for Economic Policy at the Treasury Department during the Trump administration was speaking with our friends earlier on Morning Rush.
Well, it's certainly not the slashing of the spending that McCarthy wanted in the bill that the Republicans passed in April. It's a fraction of the spending cuts that the Republicans wanted. But what's more important is that what's in place is a budget resolution. In other words, Congress is not bound by the deal that was passed. Plus, the debt ceiling that was raised through January of 2025 is unlimited. So basically what the Republicans have is an unlimited ceiling. Congress can spend as much as it wants without any commitment to what was decided yesterday and over the past couple of days, Robin.
So there's already opposition from both sides of the aisle. Let's take a listen to Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal, who leads a group of progressive lawmakers in Congress.
We don't have a deal yet. We're not sure how many Republican votes can be produced. And it is all because Republicans said that they wanted to cut the deficit. And let's be clear that what they got from this was not that. They may have gotten other things. I'm not happy with some of the things I'm hearing about, but they are not cutting the deficit and they are not cutting spending.
So after all of this, then will positions like hers make things or prolong things a little bit?
Well, that's right. Spending is not going down in total. Spending next year is going to rise because the spending cuts were part of a small group of spending, a small amount of spending that will not affect the entire deficit as a whole. For example, 80 trillion. For example, the IRS got $80 billion under the House bill in April. That was supposed to be reduced. Now it's only down $1 trillion. The $573 billion in tax cuts for green energy, that was supposed to be reduced according to the Republican April bill. Nothing has come out of that. There is some permitting reform, which is very positive, but not major cuts in spending. And most important, it's in the form of a budget resolution, which means Congress does not have to stick to it when it comes to the appropriations bills coming down the pike this summer and this fall.
What is your gut sense on the likelihood that this gets through Congress? Nobody wants to take the country off a cliff. It would be disastrous for all of us, not one party or the other, but the country and the global economy. Do you think this gets out of Congress?
No one knows. It's easy to forecast the past. It's not easy to forecast the future. What's important is that we don't want to be passing on these large credit bills to our children and grandchildren. We need to be cutting spending. It's out of control. People elected Congress to go to Washington and do that. They haven't done that so far.
Now, as part of this deal, Social Security benefits won't be touched. But since it took so long for lawmakers to reach a deal, those payments could be slightly delayed. And that has many American seniors right now who depend on these payments every month on edge. They were telling our Chris Conti that the waiting game has been exhausting.
Hello, babies.
You want to show them the babies, Sonny?
Yeah.
For Claudia and John Vrabel, their golden years have come in a palette of colors. At 76, John Vrabel has found passion in gardening at his Maryland home.
Oh, I've always had a garden, and I had to work in one when I was a kid.
But these days, these two retirees are concerned with one color in particular, green.
We had to put in for fuel assistance. It's the first time in my life I've ever done anything like that.
The Vrabels are on a fixed income. They get $2,100 a month from Social Security.
There's a lot of things that we can't do because we don't have the money.
That money helps pay bills, buy groceries, pay the mortgage. But for the Vrabels and millions of other Americans, it's been a nerve-wracking few weeks. Political back and forth over the debt ceiling left them wondering if their Social Security check might be delayed.
That would kill us. I don't know how we'd manage. I mean, where are we going to get money from? You know, the only thing I can do is borrow money off the house.
This 11th hour game is striking terror in the hearts of so many.
That is Ramsey Alwyn, CEO for the National Council on Aging, and she is not happy.
It's extremely irresponsible to be playing these political games with a population that's worked hard, played by the rules.
69.1 million people receive Social Security in this country. 97% of them are seniors.
If they don't get that check on time, their sacrifice will be real.
Well, everyday Americans, I think, are already starting to see some of the pressure that this whole debt debate is imposing on the economy.
Olivia Mitchell is a professor at the Wharton School. She says the stress of uncertainty over Social Security has impacted a particular group of Americans.
If Social Security checks are delayed, it's going to affect pretty much the bottom half of the income distribution that doesn't have a lot of other retirement savings.
Her biggest advice right now as we wait for Congress to vote on the debt ceiling, save where you can, even though default at this point is highly unlikely.
The problem with a lot of retirees is that they may have some assets, but they're not very liquid.
We got the spinach, the lettuce, the radishes. Well, these are the peas that are just barely coming up.
In the meantime, John Vrabel has started growing his own vegetables to help these two navigate rising food costs, knowing that their economic livelihoods are in the hands of Washington politicians. Chris Conti, Scripps News, Westminster, Maryland.
And still to come in this hour, Scripps News Live, a Florida woman charged with drunk driving after she's caught on camera nearly hitting swimmers on this crowded beach. We're going to tell you more. Also, 7 people rescued from the rubble of a building collapse in Iowa. Crews are out there searching for more. And Russia issuing an arrest warrant for Senator Lindsey Graham. What he said in Kyiv that is catching the attention of the Kremlin. That's next.
Surprise Dad this Father's Day with something new. Fracture turns your images into more than a picture. Your photos are custom printed directly on glass to achieve brilliant color and clarity. Visit tryfracture.com and save up to 30% off.
How does Klein & Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein & Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein & Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein & Spector.
Shopping for Father's Day is hard.
Actually, it's easy.
You never know what to get him.
Just give me steak.
It has to be perfect.
Yep. Dads want steak.
Right now, Omaha Steaks is offering Dad's favorite gift package that includes 4 of our exquisite bacon-wrapped filet mignons, 4 air-chilled boneless chicken breasts, 4 boneless pork chops, jumbo franks, dessert, and more. All for just $99.99. That's 61% off. Order now to include 8 burgers free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Why is Aaron happy? Well, Carvana has tens of thousands of cars under $20,000. So Aaron's folks could help hook him up with a new ride. We'll drive you happy at Carvana.
My name is John David Carpton.
Dr. Kimberly Stegmeyer.
Dr. Edith Perez.
I'm a medical oncologist.
And I focus on cancer prevention.
People are always asking me,
why? Why do I do this work?
2 words come to mind for me. One is responsibility. The other is purpose.
There was a child that, I took care of and adored, and she said to me, Dr. Kim, will you remember me forever? Sorry. It's been a hard year.
Every day I think of the faces of patients when I see their smiles, when I tell them that new treatments are helping their lives.
It's just so inspiring to do research that impacts human lives.
Stand Up to Cancer has been a critical partner in advancing research for cancer.
Cancer research saves lives.
So please, help us fight in this battle against cancer.
A contentious showdown on a state house floor.
The Montana House will not be bullied.
If you vote yes on this bill, I hope you see the blood on your hands.
Mirroring tensions across the nation.
Administering wrong-sex hormones should never be an option.
Scripps News is in Montana, sitting down with Representative Zoe Zephyr and House Speaker Matt Regier. Transgender rights, America's divide. Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Today, the nation is marking Memorial Day. Now, as is the tradition, President Biden laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns at Arlington National Cemetery. Vice President Kamala Harris and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also took part in the solemn ceremony. In California, a Vietnam vet's cross-country trip affected him in ways that he couldn't imagine. Tim Woodruff says that he struggled for years after returning to the U.S. He told Sierra Encinas with Scripps News San Diego that he went on an honor flight reluctantly, and not only did it change his life, it saved him.
But it's nice to see the guys here.
Reflecting on a 3-year career in the Army is Tim Woodruff.
I see this one shoot going, and it's Marcel, and he goes, Tim!
He was gung-ho about joining the service after graduating from Hoover High.
I enlisted. I went to jump school. I wanted to be a paratrooper. I wanted to, win the Congressional Medal of Honor. I wanted to be praised and glorified. And that went away real soon after I got to Vietnam.
He volunteered to go to Vietnam while serving in the Army Special Forces. He spent 8 months fighting with the 101st Battalion in Vietnam. While there, he was wounded 3 times.
A lot of people think that getting wounded makes you a hero. It doesn't make you a hero.
He found himself battling PTSD and struggling to find sincerity in the words, "Thank you for your service."
They don't know anything about me. They don't know whether I was a coward, whether I was a person that would have, had abandoned my fellow man out in combat.
Then came the opportunity to board an honor flight.
I was thinking, after this flight, if it proves to be just as worse as everything else that's going on in my life, I'm just going to kind of let things go. Make it my last hurrah.
Instead, he found the sincerity he was looking for all along and changed his mind, knowing he had a bigger purpose.
It was just a life-changing experience. And it's a combination of finding people who care, finding people who reach out to you and take you as you are. They don't ask you to change or be anything other than who you are.
Now he doesn't mind people thanking him for his service.
Now when they do, I take it as a real, compliment. Going for a jump, that's all.
Now this weekend, Vice President Kamala Harris made history at West Point. She became the first woman to deliver a commencement speech at the Military Academy on Saturday. Harris addressed roughly 950 graduating cadets, and she warned them they're entering a, quote, increasingly unsettled world, citing Russian aggression and rising threats from China. The vice president also emphasized the importance of U.S. military leadership in global security.
In the face of all these challenges, America plays a singular role of leadership. Cadets, global security and global prosperity depend on the leadership of the United States of America.
Vice President Harris also talked about the importance of institutes reflecting the diversity of the United States. It was forbidden for women to attend West Point until 1976. And nearly 50 years later, more than 5,000 women have graduated from the academy. And the mark that women are leaving in the U.S. military won't go unnoticed. One veteran served in the Air Force for 20 years, and it was her time overseas in Vietnam that would change her forever. Caroline Peters with Scripps News Colorado Springs shows us the growing effort to recognize heroes just like her.
Linda Alexander was just 25 years old when she made the decision to travel overseas and serve as an Air Force Vietnam nurse. She says her parents gave her many hesitations, but she volunteered because she knew this was her calling.
It's only 1 year. That is what Vietnam nurse Linda Alexander told her parents before leaving to serve in the war.
She put her head down crying, and my father was behind her with his arm on her, saying, "Why am I sending my daughter to Vietnam?"
The longest year of her life.
14, 16 hours a day trying to save them. It was traumatic.
Linda remembers having to improvise alongside her team of nurses to save lives.
We did the best we could with what we had. In those days, we didn't have all this technology.
What she saw day in and day out, many of us couldn't even imagine. But Linda had to keep those emotions at bay.
We were only allowed to have empathy and not sympathy. And so we went back and we gathered together to shed our tears.
Linda was one of 10,000 women that served in Vietnam, saving lives and fighting for freedom. But the welcome home was filled with anything but gratitude.
What's wrong with you? I'm busy. And that was the very first words I heard when I came to my homeland.
No victory parades, no rallies. The perception of the Vietnam War by the general public didn't make sense to our service members.
They didn't know what we were doing. And it was so easy to have the media interpret what we were doing. And I remember coming home and looking at the TV when MASH came on. And I said, no, that is not what is happening.
Feeling defeated, Linda buried these emotions away for decades. until her recent trip on Honor Flight 16.
I'll never in my whole life ever forget this.
And finally,
There I am, crying again.
the warm welcome home for Linda and her comrades.
That was Caroline Peters reporting there for us. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, 7 people rescued as crews continue to sift through the rubble of this collapsed building in Iowa. Also, Russia issuing an arrest warrant for Senator Lindsey Graham. We'll have the details on comments that caught the Kremlin's attention after a quick break.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. Discover Publishers gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call 888-692-0045. That's 888-692-0045. Or scan the QR code for your free writer's guide. Call 888-692-0045.
Smile for Grandma. When you're living with low vision, life can be a challenge. Everyday tasks and the things you love to do can become difficult and feel impossible. If you're 55 or older and your world has gotten smaller because of vision loss, it's time to be bold. Time to be Bold is helping people like you with low vision regain your independence. Go to timetobebold.org for a list of services in your state that will give you the tools, technology, training, and support you need to live your bold, best life. Join others who found a bright, bold future. Go to timetobebold.org. Help is here. Go to timetobebold.org today.
Create an amazing website with Fiverr. You'll need your web developer, UX writer, and Amy, a Fiverr freelance graphic designer with dozens of 5-star reviews who will join your team from her favorite coffee shop. Don't forget to tip. Expand your team with a Fiverr freelancer.
Hey folks, the league is in absolute chaos. Come down to some rookie taking free throw. Got the young guys going on.
The Athletic. Subscribe today.
Keep your dog safe anywhere with the world's smartest fence. Halo Collar is a virtual fence inside a collar. Easily create multiple fences in the app. No installation required. Teach them to keep away from danger and come back to safety. Safely give your dog a life off leash. Wherever you go, it's a whole new world for you and your dog. Learn more at halocollar.com.
Russia issued an arrest warrant for South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, and it follows comments that he made about the war in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's office released an edited video of the meeting that he had with Graham Friday. And in that video, Graham can be heard saying, quote, "The Russians are dying." Graham also described support as, quote, "the best money we have ever spent." Though it looked like Graham made those comments in different parts of the conversation, the video put them next to each other, and that outraged Russia, and it opened a criminal inquiry. Ukraine also released the full video of the meeting to show that the two remarks were not related. Ukraine, in the meantime, claiming that Russia is planning a large-scale provocation at Europe's largest nuclear plant, but Ukraine hasn't offered any evidence of that claim. Russia occupies the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant and is forcing Ukrainian workers to keep it online. The intelligence division of Ukraine's defense ministry is claiming that Russian forces will attack the plant and then claim that there is a radioactive leak. It says the investigation would cause a break in fighting and allow Russian troops to regroup before a Ukrainian counteroffensive. And in Japan, the country hoping to soon release treated radioactive water into the sea. That's despite opposition from fishermen and neighboring countries. The water is from the Fukushima nuclear plant. An earthquake and tsunami destroyed the plant 12 years ago. An International Atomic Energy Agency team has the final say. It's in Japan right now for 5 days to meet with plant operators and government officials. Japan is saying the water is diluted to safe levels and it will be released over decades through an undersea tunnel. Well, a UN committee is holding a monumental meeting, which began today in Paris. And this is in hopes of ending plastic pollution around the world. The Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee for Plastics has been tasked with finding a way to create the first international legally binding treaty on plastic pollution. The goal here is to not only create global mandates and national solutions, but to also include the marine environment. I want to get you right out to Vanessa Machanya. She has been tracking the meeting for us. Vanessa, what can you tell us so far?
Veronica, good afternoon. So this is a pretty big meeting. There are 2,000 participants from 200 different countries in Paris right now to talk about this treaty. But so far, there's very little agreement on how we're going to reach the UN's goal of zero plastic pollution by the year 2040. So talks today were actually stalled on deciding on a voting system that each country would use during the session, which caused some delays in the actual discussion. But experts say there are a couple of ways that this treaty could go that we should look out for in the coming days. So some nations want to see limits on plastic production, like Norway and Rwanda. And those countries also want to see a limit on the chemicals used in them. Some other countries, like the United States and China, they would like to go the route of scaling up recycling, trying to find new technology to help more recycling happen instead of those production limits. Now, others believe that a one-size-fits-all approach just would not work on a global scale. Now, despite how we get there, the spokesperson of the Secretary General of the United Nations said at a press conference earlier this month that these kinds of changes will ultimately be good for the economy as well.
Just want to flag that our colleagues in Nairobi at the UN Environment Programme say that plastic pollution could be reduced by 80% and result in the savings of over $300 billion a year if countries and companies make deep policy and market shifts using existing technologies.
So this is the second of 5 meetings before the end of 2024. And since this timeline is pretty tight, again, the UN wants those that goal of zero plastic pollution by the year of 2040. Leaders hope that this session, which ends on Friday, turns out to be a productive one. Veronica?
All right, Vanessa Machanya tracking this meeting for us from Seattle, Washington. Vanessa, thank you so much. All right, 32 minutes after the hour, I'm Veronica De La Cruz. I want to get up to speed right now on the biggest stories we're tracking for you.
The building just collapsed. What the heck? Building just collapsed.
Rescuers are continuing to search through the rubble of a collapsed apartment building right now in Davenport, Iowa. Fire officials there say that they have rescued one more person from the rubble overnight. In total, they rescued 7 people after this building collapsed yesterday. One resident is concerned about the well-being of those who were still trapped inside when this building collapsed.
There was a lot of screams, a lot of cries, a lot of people saying help when the building came down, but that did not last. I'm hoping and praying that the screams that I heard when the building came down was not people inside of it.
The building reportedly had problems before it came down. A city official said that the owner had a recent permit to address falling bricks. In other news, biker Jacob Castillo is facing a murder charge in Saturday's deadly shooting at a motorcycle rally in Red River, New Mexico. 2 other men are also in custody right now. Police say 3 biker gang members were killed in a shootout. 5 others were wounded. The shooting followed an earlier altercation in Albuquerque. The annual Red River Memorial Motorcycle Rally typically attracts tens of thousands of bikers a year. And in Florida, a woman is facing a DUI and reckless driving charge after she nearly hit a group of beachgoers. According to police, Sarah Ramsmamy drove an SUV down a beach in Smyrna Dunes Park on Saturday. They said that her blood alcohol level was almost twice the legal limit. When officers questioned her, she seemed unaware of what had happened.
She's going to go to jail. Okay? No. All right, so you can go with her, or you can stay out and get her out of jail with a bond.
And why am I going to jail?
So right now, I think you're driving under the influence.
Okay.
All right?
No.
Then we got reckless with multiple people over here. You were inches away from multiple people. Driving.
Witnesses claim that she was driving 50 miles an hour on the beach. After a quick break on Scripps News Live, Mexico's president made the unusual move of weighing in on American politics. Why Manuel Lopez Obrador is urging Hispanics not to vote for Governor Ron DeSantis. Also, Texas's top cop headed for a trial of his own. What led to Attorney General Ken Paxton's impeachment this weekend, and what comes next. Also, we'd like to remind you right here to follow us at Scripps News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll be right back.
Mom, we're so glad you're feeling better. You gave us such a scare.
I know, honey. Me too. But I want you to know I'm at peace with my home going when my time is up. And did I also tell you that I got coverage for my funeral so you and your brother would not have to worry about expenses?
I didn't know you were saving money for your final expenses.
I haven't. I called Open Care, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $30,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
That's wonderful, Mom. But how did you pass your medical exam with your health condition? Oh, that's the best part. No medical exam is needed.
That's right. And my rates can never increase, my benefits will not decrease, and my coverage will never be canceled.
Mom, I'm so glad you called.
You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. We don't want to leave our loved ones with debt. The cost of a funeral can be $8,000 or more. A final expense life insurance plan will pay up to $30,000, which can be used for funeral and other final expenses. Call 800-915-6980 now for your free information. You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. There's no obligation. Call 800-915-6980. That's 800-915-6980.
Why is Aaron happy? Well, just days ago, his old wheels gave out. But he knew Carvana had his back. That's because Carvana had tens of thousands of cars under $20,000. So Aaron's folks could help him out with a sweet ride.
No way.
Yes way. With the most cars under $20,000 and our car vending machines, we'll drive you happy at Carvana.
I can't afford this. Yeah, you can. Who are you? I'm you from the future, and I just got paid.
And I'm Dave. I can get you up to $500 of your future money now.
$500 instantly?
Instantly.
Awesome. And why are we naked?
Oh, after this, you're gonna check into a nudist resort.
They have free Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm, and volleyball.
Cool.
Download Dave and get up to $500 instantly. No interest, no credit check.
At Rue La La, feel like $1 million without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today. There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush.
On the stories that will shape each day.
There's a new study that might make you feel a little bit better.
So you can get on with yours. Morning Rush. Weekday mornings starting at 7, 6 Central. Only on Scripps News.
reminder right here, we'd love to hear from you. You can always give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. The number is right there, toll free, 1-833-4SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas anytime. I'm going to get you now to Texas, a role reversal to tell you about for Ken Paxton. After serving 3 consecutive terms as the state's attorney general, he's going to be needing an attorney of his own. Over the weekend, the Texas House, led by members of Paxton's own party, voted to impeach him after years of alleged corruption and criminal accusations. Now, Paxton, who was temporarily suspended, will be facing a trial in the state Senate. He has been the Texas AG since 2015. Scripps News national correspondent Maura Sirianni has the details on the litany of allegations that Paxton is facing. She explains what's on the line as he now heads to trial.
Yeah, well, for starters, it is historic because he's actually the only, or he's the 3rd Texas official to ever actually be impeached. So Paxton may actually fare better with the Senate, which includes more allies, including his own wife. So on Saturday, the embattled Texas Attorney General was impeached by the GOP-led State House of Representatives in a vote of 121 for the impeachment to just 23 against it. Paxton, a staunch conservative Republican, is facing 20 impeachment charges, including bribery, fraud, and abuse of office. He's accused of taking money to a wealthy mega donor and then firing the aides who reported it. He's also accused of interference in federal elections. Now, in a statement to all of this, Paxton called the whole thing a political sham by the Republican leader of the Texas House. There was also much debate leading up to this decision Saturday.
And what you're being asked to do today is to impeach without evidence. It is all rumor, it is all innuendo, it is all speculation, it is all things that we may speculate to be true, but we don't have what is defined or what qualifies as evidence in any court at law.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott, now a lot of eyes are on him. He held the seat before Paxton, and so far he has not commented on any of this. Over the weekend, former President Trump praising Paxton. No surprise there. Paxton is one of his staunch allies. He also called out Governor Abbott by saying, quote, missing in action, where is the governor of Texas on his AG's impeachment? Trump also said Paxton has his full support. In 2020, the Texas AG was one of those who asked the Supreme Court to overturn Biden's victory in Trump's favor. Now, some other Republicans reacting over the weekend, coming to Paxton's defense, including Senator Ted Cruz. You see here his tweet. He says what is happening to Ken is a travesty for the last 9 years. He has been the strongest conservative AG in the country. No attorney general has battled the abuses of the Biden administration more ferociously and more effectively than has Paxton. Cruz goes on to say that is why the swamp in Austin wants him out. I understand that people are concerned about Ken's legal challenges, but the courts should sort them out. Guys, so far, no date has been set for the Senate trial. We know it would take a 2/3 majority to actually oust him. And by the way, you mentioned his wife. We don't know yet if she will actually cast a vote or recuse herself from that trial.
All right, Maura, thank you for that. So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is off to a strong start in his bid for the White House. His team says it managed to raise $8.2 million in the first 24 hours after his official campaign announcement last Wednesday night. And that is on top of the $33 million a DeSantis-aligned super PAC has already raised. The PAC is saying it has 30 staffers on the ground in the first 4 primary states and plans to boost those numbers in 14 primary states. A new poll in the meantime conducted in his home state of Florida shows that he is statistically tied with former President Trump. According to Victory Insights, 38.2% of likely GOP primary voters say that they would support a DeSantis presidential bid. And that is versus 38% who would choose Trump. Well, it's still too soon to know which of the Republicans' biggest names will endorse DeSantis over the former president. There is one DeSantis anti-endorsement that has been making the rounds of news. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has been speaking out against DeSantis. He's been urging Hispanic voters in Florida to reject the governor's policies on immigration at the ballot box. Matt Cesny with Scripps News West Palm Beach explains why this move from a foreign head of state is so significant.
It was certainly a surprise, a foreign president injecting himself into this and specifically attacking the DeSantis campaign.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says he hopes Hispanics of Florida wake up and don't give Ron DeSantis a single vote.
I think that his criticism of DeSantis for DeSantis is like an endorsement.
So much for that, says George Garrido of the Hispanic Vote of Palm Beach County, a group with no party preference. The Mexican president's remarks do draw attention to a new law in Florida requiring legal status checks for workers and hospital patients and other restrictions on illegal immigration. And it is also raising awareness of Hispanic voters among Democrats and Republicans.
I think it's going to be important more for the Republicans. I don't think the Democrats or the Democrat Party understands that this open border policy is not favored by Hispanic voters who came here legally.
I wish that Hispanic voters would understand what the governor just did when we passed the immigration law. It is a very anti-immigrant bill.
George Garrido points out Hispanic voters are not easy to figure out.
Uniting the Hispanic vote behind one political party is not something that's going to be possible, right? I think that's actually the power of the Hispanic vote.
So immigration is one of the key issues that Governor DeSantis has been campaigning on, and he's been making headlines with moves like flying migrants to Martha's Vineyard and sending law enforcement officers and National Guardsmen from his state to help secure the Texas border. But the governor's push to stem the steady flow of migrants into this country comes at a time when the Department of Labor says the number of foreign-born workers in the U.S. is at a record high. Scripps News' Christian Bryant walks us through all of the data.
Que nosotros venimos a trabajar el trabajo que nadie quiere hacer.
The number of workers here in America born outside the U.S. has reached a record high. That's according to data from the Federal Department of Labor Statistics. Foreign-born workers made up 18.1% of the overall labor force in 2022. That's the highest level recorded since 1996. About half of these workers are Hispanic and a quarter are of Asian ethnicity. The department counts foreign-born workers who are legally admitted, as well as those who are undocumented, but did not report a workforce breakdown by legal status. Data shows these workers are often more concentrated in lower-paying industries due to language barriers, education, and skill set requirements. Think service industries like healthcare, construction, and transportation. But foreign-born workers have made significant gains in white-collar professions as well. It's a trend that's been playing out for years now. The number of foreign-born people in the American workforce has been rising steadily for decades. That's largely thanks to sluggish population growth in the U.S., plus accelerated retirements among baby boomers in recent years. But economists note that steady rise dipped during the pandemic as immigration slowed down substantially, leaving businesses strapped for help, something many are still struggling with today.
We have people who want to work, and we have jobs that need to be filled. So why does it take so long? And why is the process not efficient enough to suffice those needs?
Ever-evolving immigration policies in the U.S. are making things difficult for immigrants to find work in some places. In Florida, a new law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis tightens restrictions on people living in the state who are undocumented. While he says he welcomes legally authorized foreign-born workers, he said those who are not documented are costly in terms of social services. Other critics have argued that immigration drives down wages. Opponents of tightening immigration worry labor shortages will get worse in the agriculture, construction, and hospitality industries.
Before this law passed, that were completely unfilled and people couldn't find people to work. Now what we're looking at, this is before July 1st. People are afraid to go to work. We are seeing construction sites that are completely empty. People are not showing up to work in the agricultural fields.
But for those who fear foreign-born workers are taking jobs away from native-born workers, the data suggests otherwise. At certain points last year, there were 2 jobs available for every job seeker. And this year, the unemployment rate remains near a record low. Without these foreign-born employees in the workforce, immigration experts say consumers will feel the impact where it really hurts, their wallets.
Our food prices will go up when we don't have anyone picking up our crops. Our housing prices will go up when we don't have immigrants building up our homes.
Christian Bryant, Scripps News.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, The Little Mermaid making a splash at the box office with a massive holiday weekend debut. Plus, why the film and its breakout star are so important to Black girls all over the world. We'll have that story for you next.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. Discover Publishers gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call 888-692-0045. That's 888-692-0045. Or scan the QR code for your free writer's guide. Call 888-692-0045.
Shopping for Father's Day is hard.
Actually, it's easy.
You never know what to get him.
Just give me steak.
It has to be perfect.
Yep. Dads want steak.
Right now, Omaha Steaks is offering Dad's favorite gift package that includes 4 of our exquisite bacon-wrapped filet mignons, 4 air-chilled boneless chicken breasts, 4 boneless pork chops, jumbo franks, dessert, and more. All for just $99.99. That's 61% off. Order now to include 8 burgers free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Keep your dog safe anywhere with the world's smartest fence. Halo Collar is a virtual fence inside a collar. Easily create multiple fences in the app, no installation required. Teach them to keep away from danger and come back to safety. Safely give your dog a life off leash. Wherever you go, it's a whole new world for you and your dog. Learn more at halocollar.com.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
The Athletic. Subscribe today.
My anxiety became overwhelming. Like, I need help. I just found hers. Like, this is pretty incredible. Right away, I got matched with a provider. I noticed a huge difference. Medication brought me all back together. Get started today at forhers.com.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. I've got a question for you. Did you make it out to the movies this holiday weekend? Well, the first Memorial Day box office numbers are in, and forgive the pun, but one film blew the others right out of the water.
Just look at the world around you, right here on the ocean floor. Such wonderful things surround you. What more is you looking for under the sea?
Oh, I can't wait to see this one. Disney's new live-action film, The Little Mermaid, making a splash this holiday weekend. It raked in $118 million over its 4-day debut, and it's now on track to be the 5th highest Memorial Day weekend box office opening in history. Now, in comparison, the films that took the number 2 and 3 slots, Fast X, the latest installment of the Fast and Furious franchise, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 pulled in $23 million and $20 million, respectively. Halle Bailey, the young star Disney tapped to portray Ariel in The Little Mermaid, had already made a name for herself as a singer well before the film's release, but this has catapulted her into superstardom with The Little Mermaid's massive success, and that is significant to the little girls that you are about to meet. Halle's Ariel is more than just a Disney princess to them. She is proof that dreams come true and representation matters. Alyssa Jackson with Scripps News Kansas City explains.
There isn't much else that can leave these girls speechless.
She actually has red hair.
Wish I could be mesmerized.
The new Ariel.
Part of that world. Proud.
Black Ariel. I never
watch Black Ariel. I only watch the other Ariel.
The Little Mermaid is more than just a Disney character.
I've been waiting for this moment.
The fact that she has locks and she's natural, and it's just a beautiful thing.
When these girls see a black mermaid,
under the sea,
they see themselves.
She is like us, and I was very excited to see her. Sometimes it felt like a mermaid when I'm swimming. I go really deep down into the pool.
Ariel isn't just for the kids. It's a full circle moment for Sabira Strother.
It takes me back to my child. I've always loved the movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
Now she wants it to be special for them too.
So now I get to experience it in a different way with my daughters and my nieces, and experience it with a black Ariel.
In the Northland, I'm Melissa Jackson.
Y'all ready? Yes!
Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me.
This is one of the best songs to do karaoke to. I don't know if you've ever done it. We're talking about Queen here, and their music catalog is currently up for sale, and it could go for more than $1 billion. That's billion with a B. Universal Music is said to be in talks to acquire it from Disney Music Group. The record-breaking deal is expected to close within a month, and the band enjoyed a huge bump in popularity after their 2018 hit movie Bohemian Rhapsody. That song as well, got to do some karaoke to it. Now, if this Queen sale goes through, it's going to be the highest amount that a music catalog has ever sold for in history. We're going to continue to follow major developments for you on the debt ceiling debate from Washington, where a deal is still far from done. Coming up in the next hour of Scripps News Live, we're going to take a closer look at what it's going to take to pass the 99-page legislation that would raise the debt ceiling for 2 years and help the country avoid default. I'm Veronica Del Cruz. Thanks so much for joining us for Scripps News Live. We are back after a short break.
There's a lot to watch on TV these days. Problem is, most streaming options are incredibly pricey, and you'll end up paying for the local channels you can get for free. Luckily, there's a solution. Sling is only $40 a month. And you get awesome stuff like sports, news, and today's hottest TV for half of what the other guys cost. If you already get free locals with an antenna, now you can easily add the channels you're missing with Sling. It's the TV you love for a price you'll love. Visit sling.com/antenna to learn more.
This is Poof, the most powerful pet odor eliminator in the world.
No harsh chemicals.
No harsh chemicals at all.
No fragrances.
None.
Seriously?
Oh. It's safe for people, pets, and the planet. What's this?
Oh.
That's pure ammonia.
Oh.
Just gotta poof it. Check this out.
Wow, I don't smell anything. Literally nothing.
That's because there's nothing to smell. Poof is a commercial-grade formula. A no-nonsense, no-fragrance odor eliminator. A formula used in the country's largest municipal waste companies to eliminate organic odors and make entire communities more livable. Yet, it meets the most stringent safety standards. Pet odor, poof it. Urine, poof. Feces, poof. Vomit, litter box smell, plus the odor on the pet. Wet dog, poof. Eye odor, poof. Ear odor, poof. Face odor, poof. Stinky skin folds, any organic odor, even skunk odor. Ugh. One spray, and it goes away. Give it a smell.
Wow.
Generic sprays only cover up and reduce odor. I smell like poop and flowers now. Poof works instantly. It dismantles odor on a molecular level. It literally takes stink out of the equation. Powerful enough to eliminate skunk odor and the stink in artificial turf and garbage cans. Yet safe enough to use on pet toys, their beds, even on them. So why waste money on any product that doesn't totally eliminate the stink? Call now and get a 32-ounce bottle of Poof for just $24.95 and get free shipping. And I guarantee you'll never use anything else again. Plus, get a free sample of Poof Laundry Odor Eliminator. Just one wash removes the toughest odors from your laundry and your washer. Get Poof on Amazon, Poof.com, Chewy.com, and select Walmart stores. If it's not Poof, it stinks.
A better banking app is right at your fingertips. Join millions of people downloading Dave, and you can get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. A lot of members get $160 or more. It's free, no interest, no credit checks, no late fees. Pay a small fee only if you want the cash right now. And leave a tip if you want to say thanks. Get up to $500 instantly. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com today.
Get customizable furniture at joybird.com that complements your art, your green thumb, or just you. Save up to 45% off select bestsellers. Plus, get free design services at joybird.com.
I'm Jason Bellini in Ukraine, reporting for Scripps News.
In a war half a world away,
You learn pretty fast when you just survive.
there are stories you will never forget. Stay with Scripps News.
Present! Present! Arms!
A solemn ceremony in the nation's capital to commemorate Memorial Day. It honored the men and women who fought to defend our country's freedom, paying the ultimate sacrifice. President Biden, following tradition, laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery this morning. Thank you so much for staying with us on this Monday afternoon. It is now 1 p.m. in the East, 10 a.m. out West. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Welcome back to Scripps News Live. So President Biden addressed the nation after the ceremony, thanking service members and reminding Americans of the sacrifices of so many throughout our history.
We're the only nation in the world built on an idea that we're all created equal. We haven't always lived up to it, but we've never walked away from it. And today, standing together to honor those Americans who dared all and gave all for our nation, we can say clearly, we never will.
The president also spoke of his own personal loss this Memorial Day. Tomorrow will mark 8 years since his oldest son, Beau Biden, a veteran, died of cancer. An Army soldier wounded in the Korean War 73 years ago will finally be buried with military honors today. Army Private First Class Luther Story was awarded the Medal of Honor for his action during combat. He didn't return home from the war, and his resting place was a mystery until April. A DNA test matched the remains of an unidentified American soldier recovered in Korea. Story will now be buried at Andersonville National Cemetery near his hometown of Americus, Georgia. For veterans paying their respects to the fallen and also reflecting on their own years of service today, the Department of Veteran Affairs wants them to know that they are entitled to a burial with military honors. Maritza Giorgio shows us the depths that some are going to give veterans a final military salute.
This is Corporal Claudio Patino IV.
Awarded the Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, Claudio Patino IV served his nation in the U.S. Marine Corps and died at the age of 22 in combat in Afghanistan.
I was a young kid. Could have been me.
And now it's Patino's turn to be served.
He'll always be part of my life here at the cemetery.
Oliver Villalobos visits this gravesite in Riverside, California often and sometimes runs into Patino's mother.
During the course of the burial, I ended up talking to her and I said, "Oh, don't worry." I told her in Spanish, I said, "Don't worry, ma'am. I'm going to take care of your son. You know, he's in my hands, and I'm going to make sure that he gets everything he deserves and he gets treated with honor."
It was the first killed-in-action grave he dug.
He's a Marine like me.
But it wasn't his last.
After this experience is when I decided that I was going to be a cemetery caretaker for the rest of my career.
Villalobos started working at Riverside National Cemetery as a grave digger.
This is my baby. I started here. I'm going to probably end up being buried here.
He's now the assistant director, there for veterans' families on one of their worst days.
If the job's good enough for your mother or your brother or your uncle, then it's good enough for the veteran. And if it's not, go back and do it again. because that's the kind of level of service that we expect and we demand that we give to our veterans, because we're all family here together.
It could be difficult sometimes, you know, to see someone lose a loved one, and we never forgot the loved ones I lost. I lost my mother, so when I see somebody lose their mother, you know, it's something that I can relate to, and it still hurts. So when they're in pain, we're in pain. You know, we feel the same way.
Some 60 miles east of Los Angeles, this is the National Cemetery Administration's largest and busiest cemetery. More than 300,000 veterans and their family members are interred here in Riverside, California, but the National Cemetery Administration wants to make more veterans aware of the benefits available to them and their families well after they're gone. The National Cemetery Administration says nearly 94% of veterans have access to a no-cost national or grant-funded cemetery within 75 miles of their homes. And yet, in 2022, only about 22% of veterans or family members were buried in a national or VA-funded cemetery. It's something VA Undersecretary Matt Quinn wants to change.
Now, I know that the choice of where to bury a loved one is a deeply personal one every family has to make. Many families have long traditions of using a particular plot.
Quinn says even if a veteran doesn't want to be buried in a VA-funded cemetery, there are other benefits available to their families after they die, including headstones or medallions.
Those three prongs is where we're trying to hit this the strongest, to make sure veterans understand, make sure the families understand, as well as the funeral homes that the family is engaged with.
In Riverside, Villalobos started his own outreach effort to raise awareness locally with something that resembles a credit card.
78,000 veterans are served by Loma Linda Healthcare, the VA Medical Center. In the back, they hold all the QR codes, so all the documents necessary to find eligibility, your headstone, what national cemetery you want to be buried in. It's all here in this card. On this spring day, a special interment. An unhoused veteran who was a member of an underwater demolition team and later the Navy SEALs. It's a tough story. A lot of vets, go through it. A lot of us here have PTSD. He was seemingly forgotten until the Unidentified Veteran Program matched him through the FBI database and called Riverside. They didn't know what kind of a man he was, just sitting there in a corner somewhere in the street. But we got the chance to pay honors to him, and we did, so, we did our job. It's grave sites like this one that stick with Villalobos. He got the same love he did as a child at the end, so I think it's poetic justice, and, in the end, that's our job. We always take care of our own, so we make sure, when we can, we do it. The final way to honor and serve those who have served for us. There's literally tens of thousands of stories out here. Tuskegee Airmen, Navajo Code Talkers, people like I told you, like Corporal Patino and Killed in Actions, that gave their life for this country. And if they came out here and found these stories, I think it would be moving for everybody. Maritza Giorgio, Scripps News, Riverside, California.
As we reflect on the millions of Americans who paid the ultimate sacrifice, you may think of those who lost their lives in Iraq or Afghanistan. There's no national memorial to honor those men and women, even though the effort began more than 8 years ago. National correspondent Joe St. George provides an update on why the process has been taking so long and when a memorial could finally be completed.
Memorials to fallen war heroes are always powerful, but especially so on Memorial Day weekend. For years, the fallen from wars like the war in Vietnam and the war in Korea have been remembered on the National Mall and in communities around the country. But what about those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in Iraq or Afghanistan? Well, it turns out building a national memorial is easier said than done. The United States has now been out of Iraq and out of Afghanistan for nearly 2 years. Conflicts that began over 20 years ago. 7,000 plus service members have died in post 9/11 operations. And while across the country in cities like Hermitage, Pennsylvania and Kokomo, Indiana, there are small tributes to the global war on terror, on the National Mall in Washington so far, a national memorial does not exist. Michael Rodriguez, the CEO of the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation, explains why.
We had to seek an exemption from a law that says a war has to be over for a period of 10 years in order for a national war memorial to be built.
Rodriguez says in 2015, he and others began trying to convince lawmakers to change the law, an effort which ultimately resulted in then-President Donald Trump granting an exemption in 2017. 6 years later, though, in Washington, there is still no memorial. Ground has yet to be broken.
And it's an incredibly complex process. The way I describe what we do is I want you to imagine a public piece of civic art that everybody has input on land you cannot buy, with 20 layers of bureaucracy and politics.
Rodriguez tells us, however, that the land has been selected just north of the Lincoln Memorial. But to get approval to use that land, it required another law, which President Biden signed in 2021. To make things even more complicated, Rodriguez says taxpayer money will not be used. $100 million will need to be raised.
I hope everyone understands this is our nation's front lawn. There's a process.
Currently, Rodriguez says they're on steps 13 through 19. An architect is expected to be announced later this summer, who will then be tasked with design. While the memorial may be similar in some ways to existing ones, Rodriguez hopes this tribute feels different.
I can name 54 friends of mine that never came home. So I wanted to be able to honor everybody that served.
The goal right now is to formally dedicate the Global War on Terrorism Memorial sometime in 2027, 12 years from the time this process all began. And if you are wondering if all this work for a memorial is worth it, those who were at the Korean War Memorial in Washington recently tell us yes. Sky wasn't alive in the 1950s, but thanks to this place, he's learning about it.
It's horrible history. People died because of the war.
Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy have reached an agreement to raise the debt ceiling. The hard and fast deadline to pass the deal is now 1 week from today. And last night, the 99-page legislation was posted online for lawmakers to take a look at. President Biden and House Speaker McCarthy began the hard work of selling their deal to members of their parties. Let's get you out to congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed, who's live for us right now in Washington. All right, Nate, it looks like a deal was finally reached over the weekend. How did this all come together? Break it down for us.
Well, Veronica, it was a lot of negotiating. It was a lot of working between President Biden and Speaker McCarthy's teams. Ultimately, it wasn't until over Memorial Day weekend, a time when lawmakers are typically out of Washington, and the vast majority of them were out of Washington, that this deal was reached. Now, we can break down what's in this deal. I could either read all 99 pages of the agreement to you, or we can go through the spark notes here. So what's in this deal? For one, it suspends the debt limit until January of 2025. It claws back unspent COVID funding from states that hadn't used it. It holds 2024 spending levels roughly flat with what the government is spending this year in 2023. It also expands food assistance to homeless and veteran SNAP benefits, but it does raise the age threshold for work requirements in order to receive those food assistance benefits from age 49 to age 54 for adults without children. That was a major concession from President Biden. Another concession, it cuts $1.8 billion from the IRS. That was a key Republican sticking point. But the bill does keep President Biden's student debt relief program in place while it continues to be challenged in the Supreme Court. The bill also includes permitting reform, a key ask from moderates from both the Republican and Democratic sides. Ultimately, there were concessions. There was a give and take on both sides here. Neither President Biden nor Speaker McCarthy got everything that they wanted.
But it looks like a number of lawmakers have been weighing in. I know that the chairwoman of the Progressive House Caucus, Pramila Jayapal, was blasting the agreement. She's not too happy about what's happened here. Take a listen to this, Nate.
It is really unfortunate that the president opened the door to this. People feel that this is bad policy.
So you hear that, and we know that there are lawmakers on the other side of the aisle that feel the same way. Can Congress pass this bill? Is there enough support for it?
Well, look, with respect to Congresswoman Jayapal, ultimately, she is not necessarily the vote that lawmakers are looking for in order to pass this bill. They do not need unanimous support for this legislation in the House or the Senate. What they need is the moderates, Democratic moderates, Republican moderates, to band together and put this bill through the House, through the Senate, and to President Biden's desk. What this bill passing Congress is going to depend on is the moderate lawmakers from the Democratic and Republican parties basically banding together, deciding this isn't perfect. All 99 pages aren't filled with things that we necessarily agree with. But at the same time, this bill is good enough to send to President Biden before June 5th and avoid the possibility of a default for the first time in American history. And there is a lot on the line here. If the U.S. were to default after June 5th, it could mean Social Security payments would be in question. Military salaries could face the same fate. There could be questions about rising interest rates. The economy could be thrust into turmoil. There's a lot riding on this piece of legislation. It needs to get through Congress this week at some point. The Senate is already telling its members there's a chance they could be in for Friday or the weekend, days the Senate is not typically in, to try and get this bill in and through to President Biden at the 11th hour.
All right, we are all watching very closely. Nate Reed live for us in Washington. Nate, thank you so much. So to come on Scripps News Live, the Texas Attorney General headed to trial. We're going to explain why and what comes next. Also, Turkey's president surviving a runoff election, what this means for the country as it enters a third decade now under his leadership. We're going to have that story for you after a quick break.
Even one child hungry is one too many. Yet right now, millions of kids across America don't have enough to eat.
Did you have breakfast today?
Enough to help them grow, focus in school, and fuel their dreams. You can help end child hunger in the U.S. Join your neighbors and support No Kid Hungry today. And help ensure that every single kid gets the food they need to learn, to thrive, and to achieve brighter futures. With just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you can help provide free, healthy meals and snacks to kids in your community and across the country.
In the United States, a lot of people don't see our country as being a place where people are hungry. But in communities like ours, where poverty is such a big issue, it is an issue.
No child should ever go hungry, but schools and community groups that feed kids don't have enough resources. We can help. So please call or go online now and join us with your $19 monthly gift. Use your credit card and you'll receive this No Kid Hungry t-shirt to show you're part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives. Food is health. Food is energy. Food is love. So let's make sure every child has the food they need to succeed.
If you're going to give, it's a place where you can know that your dollars are really doing something important. You know, you don't have to wonder, is my money really being used?
Your kindness and generosity will help feed boys and girls in your own backyard and across America who don't always know where their next meal is coming from. So please, call this number or go online to helpnokidhungry.org to feed hungry kids today.
Dustin Rose is a major champion. Flawless form, elite balance, championship consistency. See his pants? That's fit for a pro.
Curious about trick plays and if ever
local hero, national champ, now he's home and expected to save the franchise. Hey guys, am I dreaming or can we actually win this thing?
Wendy only met Margot 8 days ago while searching for freelance web developers on Fiverr. But the incredible website he delivered made him an invaluable member of the team. Expand your team with a Fiverr freelancer.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com.
After serving 3 consecutive terms as Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton is going to need an attorney of his own. Over the weekend, the Texas House, led by members of Paxton's own party, voted to impeach him after years of corruption and criminal accusations. Now, Paxton, who is temporarily suspended, will face a trial in the state Senate. He has been the Texas AG since 2015. Scripps News national correspondent Maura Sirianni details the litany of allegations that he's been facing and explains what's on the line as he heads into a trial.
Yeah, well, for starters, it is historic because he's actually he's the third Texas official to ever actually be impeached. So Paxton may actually fare better with the Senate, which includes more allies, including his own wife. So on Saturday, the embattled Texas Attorney General was impeached by the GOP-led State House of Representatives in a vote of 121 for the impeachment to just 23 against it. Paxton, a staunch conservative Republican, is facing 20 impeachment charges, including bribery, fraud, and abuse of office. Texas. He's accused of taking money to a wealthy mega donor and then firing the aides who reported it. He's also accused of interference in federal elections. Now, in a statement to all of this, Paxton called the whole thing a political sham by the Republican leader of the Texas House. There was also much debate leading up to this decision Saturday.
And what you're being asked to do today is to impeach without evidence. It is all rumor, it is all innuendo, it is all speculation, it is all things that we may speculate to be true, but we don't have what is defined or what qualifies as evidence in any court at law.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott, now a lot of eyes are on him. He held the seat before Paxton, and so far he has not commented on any of this. Over the weekend, former President Trump praising Paxton. No surprise there. Paxton is one of his staunch allies. He also called out Governor Abbott by saying, quote, missing in action, where is the governor of Texas on his AG's impeachment? Trump also said Paxton has his full support. In 2020, the Texas AG was one of those who asked the Supreme Court to overturn Biden's victory in Trump's favor. Now, some other Republicans reacting over the weekend, coming to Paxton's defense, including Senator Ted Cruz. You see here his tweet. He says what is happening to Ken is a travesty for the last 9 years. He has been the strongest conservative AG in the country. No attorney general has battled the abuses of the Biden administration more ferociously and more effectively than has Paxton. Cruz goes on to say that is why the swamp in Austin wants him out. I understand that people are concerned about Ken's legal challenges, but the courts should sort them out. Guys, so far, no date has been set for the Senate trial. We know it would take a 2/3 majority to actually oust him. And by the way, you mentioned his wife. We don't know yet if she will actually cast a vote or recuse herself from that trial.
All right, Morris here on your reporting there. More, thank you. Well, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan survived a runoff election that will allow his rule to go into its third decade. Preliminary results showed him with just over 52% of the vote. And one of the biggest challenges he's facing is controlling soaring inflation right now. Critics are also angry about his response to the region's devastating earthquake in February. Scripps News correspondent Trent Murray is in Istanbul. He has the details.
Well, this election had really been framed as one of continuity, Erdogan, or change. The opposition's Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, and in the end, the country's 85 million or so citizens decided to go with that continuity vote, giving President Erdogan another term in office. It means he will have led this country at the end of his term for 25 years. The big issues on the agenda include record inflation, a collapsing currency, but also trying to rebuild from those deadly earthquakes which struck the south of the country earlier this year. We know the opposition has cried foul over the level playing field, or the lack of it in their view, in this election. They have accepted the results, but they pointed to issues like the fact that the state media here, the public broadcaster, just gave so much more time to President Erdogan and his party. Internationally, really, what happens here does have a major ripple-on effect. Turkey finds itself in a very prickly, at times dangerous part of the world. It's got Syria and Iran on its eastern border, and then it's got Russia to the north. It does try to play the middle ground at times as a mediator. It still talks to the Kremlin, it still talks to Iran, but it is also a NATO member. It has got the second largest army within NATO after the United States, and we know for that reason officials in the White House were watching this result very closely. Trent Murray for Scripps News, Istanbul.
There is a lifeguard shortage happening in the United States right now. Ahead on Scripps News Live, how this could impact your summer plans and what some states are doing about it. Also, we're going to take you to New York for Fleet Week. Plus, don't forget that you can always count on Scripps News for all of your headlines throughout the primetime hours as well, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Shopping for Father's Day is hard.
Actually, it's easy.
You never know what to get him.
Just give me steak.
It has to be perfect.
Yep. Dads want steak.
Right now, Omaha Steaks is offering Dad's favorite gift package that includes 4 of our exquisite bacon-wrapped filet mignons, 4 air-chilled boneless chicken breasts, 4 boneless pork chops, jumbo franks, dessert, and more. All for just $99.99. That's 61% off. Order now to include 8 burgers free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
I'll never forget that day.
It happened so fast.
It was over
before it started. In the blink. Blink.
Blink of an eye.
The lives of our veterans have been changed forever in the blink of an eye. They need our support more than ever. Now you can show your support in the blink of an eye with a click of a button or a simple phone call. Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support of only $19. Your call today will help change the lives of our veterans.
Because of patriotic Americans just like you.
My life and the lives of other veterans like me will be changed.
In the blink of an eye.
You can show our disabled veterans your support by going to helpdav.org right now and give just $19 a month. When you do, we'll send you this DAV blanket as a thank you and as a reminder that you support those who served.
I will never stop showing gratitude for their sacrifices.
I will do what I can to help my veterans now in their time of need.
I support those who served for me.
Together, we are keeping our promise to America's veterans.
My life. My life.
My life was changed forever.
Your call means more than you can imagine to a veteran who has proudly served us and our country.
When you donate to DAV, you're helping disabled veterans. Thank you, and God bless you.
Please call or go online to helpdav.org right now. Your support in this moment honors our veterans' service and shows your commitment to them today and into the future.
What do you think your chances are of making out of this alive?
From the front lines to the skies, Jason Bellini takes you to meet the men and women defending their home.
You just live and just shoot.
How many combat missions have you been on?
77.
99% of the time, I'm not afraid to die.
What about that 1%?
I'm a human being.
No Surrender, the fight for Ukraine. Tonight at 8:30, only on Scripps News.
Well, June is Pride Month, and one of the nation's biggest retailers, Target, has been under fire for its recent decisions on Pride merchandise. The controversy follows other large companies learning how their support for the LGBTQ+ community is impacting their bottom line. National correspondent Jesse Cohen takes a closer look at the controversy.
Under scrutiny and under pressure, Target is the latest company suffering backlash for LGBTQ+ support after announcing they are removing some items from their stores ahead of June's Pride Month.
From a corporate point of view, it's not only that they are alienating basically the LGBT community, but all their allies, which is huge.
That's marketing expert Jerry Yoram-Wind with the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School. Target announced it is changing their Pride merchandise plans after anti-LGBTQ+ supporters targeted the company on social media and reportedly in stores. Right-wing commentator Matt Walsh said on Twitter, the goal is to make Pride toxic for brands and that companies should know that they'll pay a price.
If you yield to extremists on this, what is next?
Target said in a statement they removed items because employees experienced threats. That reasoning won praise from the company's hometown newspaper, with the Star Tribune of Minneapolis in an editorial arguing that Target is being cautious in order to prevent a tragedy to its workers and customers. The paper also cited the company's longtime support for LGBTQ events in Minnesota and elsewhere in the country. But Wind says other safety precautions could have been put into place that would have offered protection and not jeopardized business.
Target really showed total lack of courage and dumb decisions from a marketing point of view, from a business point of view, from an ethical point of view, from society's point of view, and learn from other companies that had the guts to respond to dumb pressure, like look what Disney did in Florida in response to the governor.
Target has not specified which items they are removing from shelves, though the brand Aperolin is no longer in its stores or on its website. The designer of the line, Eric Carnell, says he's seen an unprecedented number of orders on his Etsy site since Target pulled his products. The brand's Etsy page says, quote, "Your support during this extremely difficult time means more than I can express." Opponents have also been vocal about a woman's swimsuit that was termed tuck-friendly to help conceal male genitalia. This all comes as Bud Light is still grappling from backlash after partnering with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Sales plummeted after the partnership, and the company says it plans to triple their marketing spending in the U.S. this summer. Wynn says Target could be the next major corporation to feel a hit to their bottom line, not for promoting LGBTQ support, rather by doing the opposite.
My prediction here would be that they will suffer a significant loss of sales unless they'll act really fast and basically correct what they've done.
Wind says in today's shopping environment, it's easy to purchase many items customers buy at Target in other places.
And definitely there's a lot of competition, and especially a very convenient competition, which is online shopping.
Meanwhile, LGBTQ plus activists say they will be looking to Pride Month to see which companies are still on board with the rainbow. Jesse Cohen, Scripps News, Denver.
All right, it is now 29 minutes after the hour. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Great to see you today. Time now to get you caught up on the day's top stories. The House scheduled to consider the debt ceiling agreement on Wednesday. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy reaching a deal in principle on Saturday night. Members of both parties might be raising objections. In particular, hardline Republicans might not believe spending cuts are deep enough. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is saying the government will default on its debt if there isn't a deal by June 5th.
The building just collapsed. What the heck?
Rescuers are continuing to search through the rubble of a collapsed apartment building in Davenport, Iowa. Fire officials are saying that they rescued one more person from the rubble overnight. In total, they've now rescued 7 people after the building collapsed yesterday. The building reportedly had problems before it collapsed, and a city official said that the owner had a recent permit to address falling bricks. Biker Jacob Castillo is facing a murder charge in Saturday's deadly shooting at a motorcycle rally in Red River, New Mexico. 2 other men are in custody. Police say 3 biker gang members were killed in a shootout. 5 others were wounded. Now, the shooting followed an earlier altercation between rival biker gang members in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The annual Red River Memorial Motorcycle Rally typically attracts tens of thousands of bikers a year. So many people mark Memorial Day with cookouts or maybe baseball games, but today also marks the beginning of Fleet Week. Meteorologist Scott Withers takes us to New York City.
There's a special kind of excitement right now in the Big Apple. We got thousands of sailors, Marines, and U.S. Coast Guardsmen here for Fleet Week. Behind me, that is the USS Wasp. It's the largest ship that's in town for Fleet Week. Now, walking around last night in Times Square, I stumbled across a band made up completely of sailors. They were rocking out and entertaining all of the tourists in town. The Big Apple has completely embraced Fleet Week, and they are celebrating our armed forces.
Thousands of U.S. Navy sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen invading New York City for the 35th annual celebration of Fleet Week, a parade of ships around the Statue of Liberty and up the Hudson River, kicking off the week-long event. The highlight, the USS Wasp amphibious assault ship, joined by 4 Naval Academy ships and several fast response cutters. Once ashore, the celebration really getting underway. Sailors flooding into Times Square, performing for and dancing with the tourists.
A lot of people just thanking me for my service, which is always good, makes me feel famous, so that's nice.
They played flag football at the Jets training facility and met the Mets mascot. It's not all fun and games, though. They rang the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange, and many were promoted and re-enlisted on sacred ground at the 9/11 Memorial at the World Trade Center. Fleet Week is also an important recruiting tool for the armed services. Sailors, Marines, and Guardsmen mingling with tourists and residents throughout the Big Apple.
The city just embraces the Navy. And as a recruiter and recruiting, it's good to see people can see what the Navy's all about. So you can go on the ships, you can see what life's about and talk to sailors.
Whether or not anyone joins, Fleet Week is more than a vacation.
Find a way to serve either your country or your community in some capacity after high school or after college, so you give back. I think service isn't somebody else's problem to solve. Service is everybody's responsibility.
A tribute to service during a holiday weekend honoring their service.
I'm Scripps News meteorologist Scott Withers in New York.
So, Memorial Day, it's also the unofficial beginning of summer. And with those temperatures heating up, many people are heading to the water. Sadly, the holiday weekend and the upcoming summer also are when emergency personnel see an increase in drownings.
Drowning is a silent tragedy, so we're not going to necessarily hear kicking, screaming, shouting. Those are actually oftentimes positive things that are happening in the pool. Kids playing, right, or loud. So it's locking that back door. It's having the fence, and the appropriate security around the pool, and doing that at all times. There's not adult supervision there.
Now, as for boaters, it's important to make sure that propellers are off before anyone gets into the water, and make sure that everyone is on the boat and wearing a life jacket before heading out to the water or going back to the shore. And lifeguards are definitely an important part of all of the fun, but there's a shortage right now across the country, and there has been one for years. National correspondent Morris Sirianni dives in to tell us how cities have been responding.
Ready for summertime fun, only to be met with a closed sign or told to enter at your own risk.
It has been an ongoing struggle to get and retain lifeguards over the years.
Across the country, beaches, pools, and water venues are left without proper staffing, including lifeguards. So why has it been so difficult to hire staff? Wyatt Werneth with the American Lifeguard Association believes the job lacks popularity these days.
When I started, we had Baywatch.
Oh, do you mean this Baywatch?
Baywatch was so exciting. It was career-filled with excitement and, beautiful people, helicopters, fast boats. We wanted to be lifeguards. We don't have anything like that now.
The days of that Baywatch era are over, and the pandemic depleted already shrinking rosters in 2020. Werneth says numbers have struggled in the summer since.
What has happened is the returning lifeguards that we did retain found other work opportunities, and we lost them to that.
Some communities are now taking proactive measures.
It's important that we train lifeguards and keep them in the system and incentivize and treat them well, because we want them to stay with us.
In Phoenix, city officials are going on year 2 of offering a $3,000 incentive to people who don a suit and whistle for the summer.
We have a free junior lifeguard program. That's for your kind of younger teens who are who want to be a lifeguard maybe in the next year or two.
And in Nashville, they're giving local 15 to 24-year-olds the chance to test the lifeguarding waters, banking skills, and paychecks.
The community is growing, so of course we have to grow with the community.
So what do these efforts have in common? They're both targeting a younger audience, working to bring in the next generation of lifeguards. Something Werneth says has already shown progress in other parts of the world, like Australia.
And they start training their young individuals to be what they call nippers. And that is, they come out into elementary school and they start learning surf rescue, ocean confidence, swimming at a young age.
Several reasons can be blamed for slim staffing, but Werneth believes teaching kids about water safety and introducing them to the idea of lifeguarding at a young age can really help turn the tide. The CDC says more than 4,000 people accidentally drown each year. And the bottom line is, preventing a drowning is far better than waiting for first responders to get to the scene.
You got to swim in front of a lifeguard.
Mara Sirianni, Scripps News, Atlanta.
Coming up on Scripps News Live, the FDA lifted its ban on blood donations from gay and bisexual men. But the updated policy is now drawing some concern. We'll explain next.
Mom, we're so glad you're feeling better. You gave us such a scare.
I know, honey. Me too. But I want you to know I'm at peace with my homegoing when my time is up. And did I also tell you that I got coverage for my funeral so you and your brother would not have to worry about expenses?
I didn't know you were saving money for your final expenses.
I haven't. I called Open Care, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $30,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
That's wonderful, Mom. But how did you pass your medical exam with your health condition? Oh, that's the best part. No medical exam is needed.
That's right. And my rates can never increase, my benefits will not decrease, and my coverage will never be canceled.
Mom, I'm so glad you called.
You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. We don't want to leave our loved ones with debt. The cost of a funeral can be $8,000 or more. A final expense life insurance plan will pay up to $30,000, which can be used for funeral and other final expenses. Call 800-915-6980 now for your free information. You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. There's no obligation. Call 800-915-6980. That's 800-915-6980.
At Rue La La, feel like $1 million without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names like Valentino, Vince, and more before they're gone. And Rue La La every day to score up to 70% off iconic brands. Shop RueLaLa.com today. A better banking app is right at your fingertips. Download Dave, and you can get up to $500 instantly, right through your phone. There's no interest, no credit checks, and no late fees. Because getting help shouldn't set you back. Ditch the big banks and trust the bear to get up to $500 instantly. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com today.
My little family is me, Aria, and Jade. Just the three of us girls. Here, this way. I never thought twice about feeding her kibble, but about 2 years ago, I realized she was overweight. She was always out of breath. That's when I decided to introduce the farmer's dog to her diet. It's just so fresh that she literally gets bubbles in her mouth. Now she's a lot more active. She's able to join us on our adventures, and we're all able to do things as a family.
Get started at betterforthem.com.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Gay and bisexual men can now donate blood after the FDA updates its guidelines. For decades, they've been banned from donating. Now the agency's recent change is expected to relieve the blood shortage across the United States. But some are saying more needs to be done to address this issue. Scripps News correspondent Meg Hilling takes a closer look.
America's blood supply runs on donations, and in order to keep that system pumping, the FDA is taking steps to deepen the donor pool.
It truly is a new era of blood donor eligibility, and it's one that's been a long time in the making.
The FDA announced that moving forward, blood donor eligibility will be determined via individual risk-based assessment questionnaires, regardless of one's background, gender, or sexual orientation. This update in policy marks the latest chapter in the FDA's removal of restrictions that have historically prevented gay and bisexual men from donating blood. During the height of the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, the U.S. government placed a lifetime ban on blood donations from men who had sex with men. At the time, this was largely due to a lack of HIV testing capabilities, and it was ultimately viewed by members of the LGBTQ community as discriminatory. In 2015, the FDA removed the ban, replacing it with a requirement of 1 year of abstinence that was reduced to 3 months in 2020.
Anytime more people are able to enter the donor pool safely, that is a really good thing, because less than 5% of the population actually donates blood. And, we need more people to step forward and do it.
With time-based referrals now eliminated, Susan Forbes with OneBlood says blood centers across the country are excited about the opportunity to shore up the blood supply, which took a hard hit during the COVID-19 pandemic and is relied upon in emergencies.
All too often, we see these mass tragedies happening around the country. Blood donations playing a role in helping save patients' lives who have been involved in situations like that. But it's the donor who came in just a few days prior that's helping save those patients' lives.
For Forbes, the policy update is extra special, as OneBlood, along with the American Red Cross and Vitalant, participated in the study that helped the FDA determine if the questionnaire would be an acceptable alternative to a time-based deferral in reducing the risk of HIV among gay and bisexual donors.
Together, the three of us enrolled over 1,600 gay and bisexual men into the advanced study. And the data from that study was provided to the FDA, and it actually played a role, and it was part of their decision-making by the FDA to move to this individual assessment of all donors.
Forbes says OneBlood plans to begin implementing the new FDA policy within the next couple of months. But the details of the policy update aren't sitting well with everyone.
The FDA for about a decade now has been more or less pretending that it's ending discrimination against gay and bi men while not actually ending that discrimination.
California State Senator Scott Wiener says he and others in the LGBTQ community are taking issue with the policy's deferral of donors who are proactively taking the HIV preventative medication known as PrEP.
FDA is saying if you take PrEP and therefore have essentially no risk of HIV, you cannot donate. But if you stop taking PrEP and put yourself at risk of HIV, well, then you're allowed to donate. It makes no sense, and it will continue to exclude a massive number of gay men from donating.
According to the FDA, while antiretroviral drugs are effective, available data has shown that their use may delay the detection of HIV by currently licensed screening tests for blood donations, opening up the possibility for false negative results. But Wiener says folks taking PrEP to protect their health are not looking to jeopardize anyone else's health, as safety is already top of mind, and that such a deferral further demonizes gay and bisexual men.
As a gay man who takes PrEP, I can tell you, for me and for everyone I know, we're not going to do anything. None of us wants to put the blood supply at risk.
And that's not the only complaint about the policy update.
I will say, though, that our blood collection policies are still based on the honor system. Anyone can fill out the questionnaire, the individualized questionnaire that they've come up with, any way they want. That doesn't necessarily inspire confidence in our public health system or for public safety.
That's Justin Chenette, a former Maine state senator and current county commissioner. Chenette argues that while the questionnaire is a step in the right direction, it's kind of unnecessary, given that all blood donations are tested.
I absolutely can see a situation where somebody fills out the questionnaire incorrectly. And guess what? They're going to still test that blood donation, and they're going to accept it or not accept it based on the results of the test, not of the questionnaire. So why have the questionnaire?
Ultimately, Chenette says the need for blood donations isn't going away, and neither is the desire of folks who want to help their fellow Americans, regardless of their sexual orientation.
Generally, Americans want to give back and help their fellow individuals. Like we have such a strong sense of community that is almost second to none, and so we rally when there's a need. I think we need to take that as progress, recognize that step, thank them for that, and then let's sort of circle back to say, how can we continue to improve?
Meg Hilling, Scripps News, Chicago.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, a gifted 11-year-old is about to make her big debut at the Scripps National Spelling Bee.
Those are real people I watched so many times on TV, and then I'll be up there to spell, so that'll be so special.
Gracing a national stage isn't foreign to this young talent. We're going to tell you why next. Also, we're going to take you behind the scenes to introduce you to the crew helping these kids prepare for the big competition. We'll be right back.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
Introducing the world's smartest fence. Halo Collar is a virtual fence inside a collar. Easily create Halo fences right in the app, virtually anywhere. Teach them to keep away from danger and come back to safety. Give your dog the freedom of a life off leash so they can roam wherever you go. It's a whole new world for you and your dog.
I got the groceries.
You were just supposed to get diapers.
Couldn't find them.
Well, you found your favorite cereal. Go back.
Can't. We're kind of broke until payday.
Well, diapers kinda can't wait. I'm getting the Empower app. Empower Cash Advance gives me up to $250 instantly. No late fees, interest, or credit checks.
Hurry back.
No guarantees. Diapers are so hard to find.
Get Empower Cash Advance up to $250 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com.
Hey, folks, the league is in absolute chaos.
Come down to some rookie taking free throw. Got the young guys going on.
The Athletic. Subscribe today.
There shouldn't be a stigma around talking about mental health or taking medication for your anxiety if that's what you need to feel better. And that's something I know firsthand. That's why I trust Hers. They help women access quality mental health care 100% online. Get started today at forhers.com.
There's a lot to watch on TV these days. Problem is, most streaming options are incredibly pricey, and you'll end up paying for the local channels you can get for free. Luckily, there's a solution. Sling is only $40 a month. And you get awesome stuff like sports, news, and today's hottest TV for half of what the other guys cost. If you already get free locals with an antenna, now you can easily add the channels you're missing with Sling. It's the TV you love for a price you'll love. Visit sling.com/antenna to learn more.
Local, national, and worldwide headlines. Breaking down the day's biggest stories with live reporting from around the globe.
I'm Del Walters, and this is The Debrief.
Live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
And a quick reminder right here, we would like to hear from you. You can always give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number on your screen right there. You can call us toll free, 1-833-4SCRIPPS. Share your comments and your story ideas at any time. We are now less than 24 hours away from the preliminary round of the 95th Annual Scripps National Spelling Bee. More than 200 of the nation's best spellers will be participating in the elite competition, and those in charge say this year's competition could be the busiest yet. Scripps News correspondent Maya Rodriguez takes us there.
The countdown is on for this year's Scripps National Spelling Bee, where several hundred students will try to SPELL their way to the Bee Trophy. Ahead of it all, we chatted with the so-called ringleader who helps guide all the kids while they are here. Trying to wrangle 231 spellers into the right place at the right time might sound like a lot to handle. But for Abby Haggerty, it's second nature.
I'm a ringleader for them. I kind of consider myself to be the bee mom.
Haggerty's helping hand at the Bee began 13 years ago, but it's the kids at Bee Week that keep her coming back each time.
Yes, I get them to their interviews. Yes, I help them get their makeup done with the makeup people and the hair people. We get to have a lot of fun. But my main role for that day is to be their liaison.
It's a role in which she brings plenty of joy.
I want to be the person that smiles the most from Scripps and is present to help them do whatever they need to do. So if they need a moment to breathe, then I stand there with them and help them breathe. And if they want to laugh and just be a 13 or 14-year-old kid, I'm more than happy to facilitate that as well.
Haggerty is part of a large group of people making sure this year's spelling bee goes off without a hitch.
I think about how meaningful Bee Week was for me as a kid, and we're trying to add more and more of that meaning to the work that we do at Bee Week.
Corey Leffler is the Spelling Bee's new executive director and a former speller at the competition herself.
The Spelling Bee is such a pure competition. It's just the kids versus the dictionary. It's so easy to relate to and so easy to play along. It makes it a lot of fun to be there. It makes it a lot of fun to watch.
For viewers watching at home, Leffler says you never know what might happen next.
We can definitely expect some surprises along the way.
Which Abby Haggerty says comes with the territory, and one she plans to help all the spellers navigate together.
At the end of the day, they're amazing kids, and so what I want to do is be there for them, and I want to make sure that they know that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
One that's about to unfold under these bright lights. Maya Rodriguez, Scripps News, National Harbor, Maryland.
So spelling bee contestants spend countless hours studying to compete. And even with all of that, many are also committed to other hobbies as well. Molly Hudson of Scripps News Omaha introduced us to an 11-year-old contestant who has already graced the national music stage.
11-year-old Sarah Fernandez commits herself fully to everything she does. She's played several well-known venues, including Carnegie Hall. From piano to math or reading, Sarah has a passion for learning.
My all-time favorite word is like the longest word, emotional ultra microscopic silicoconioconiosis. It's so long.
One of her many talents is spelling.
PNEUMONOULTRAMICROSCOPIC.
You get the idea. This weekend, she's one of several hundred students headed to Washington, D.C. for the Scripps National Spelling Bee.
Those are real people I watched so many times on TV, and then I'll be up there to spell, so that'll be so special.
Sarah's first spelling bee was when she was in the 4th grade, but it was this year as a 5th grader that she qualified for the National Bee.
My favorite part is going up on that stage to receive my spelling word because it feels like such a big thing to stand in front of all those people, and it's just such a special moment.
The spelling bee bug runs in the family.
My sister Hannah, she's been to the Nationals twice, and she's won the Metro Bee 5 consecutive times.
Taking that as inspiration, spending hours studying.
Well, maybe like a couple hours. It varies from day to day.
She's reviewed all the Scripps materials, quickly moving through the list of words ahead of the big competition.
Unabridged dictionary, words of the champion, that's the study list, and the prefixes and suffixes table.
But for Sarah, it's finding the balance between all of her passions.
It's technically a Chopin etude, but it's nicknamed the Bees. So I thought that's like spelling bee, so yeah.
Taking her dedication of practicing piano to the national stage.
We know the saying, practice makes perfect, and I think that's the same exact thing in spelling, because if you study a lot, you can become a better speller.
Wow, she can really play. That was Molly Hudson reporting there for us. Well, the 95th annual Scripps National Spelling Bee semifinals will begin on Wednesday, and the final round is this Thursday. You could watch it on Scripps News partner networks ION Plus, also ION TV. And by the way, Scripps News is a subsidiary of the E.W. Scripps Company, which also runs the spelling bee on a not-for-profit basis. Very exciting. We continue to follow major developments for you on the debt ceiling from Washington. We do have a deal, but there is still more work to be done. After lengthy negotiations, Social Security benefits were protected, but recipients could still see delays in payments. Coming up in your next hour of Scripps News Live, you can hear from senior citizens living on the edge. We're also going to take a closer look at what the deal includes. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. You can always follow me on Twitter. Veronica D. L. Cruz is the place. If you have any questions or comments, you can also reach me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Veronica Dela Cruz TV. Don't go too far because Lauren Magarino is up next. She has more of the day's top stories. Scripps News Live continues after a quick break.
There's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Checking your credit score